Hello, all of you vaingloriously wonderful people. On Friday, Systemera hosted another Twitch stream jam-packed full of leaks on the upcoming automation update. They showed off a sick new feature, talked about new cosmetics, and even announced the release date for the automation update. And it all adds up to one simple thing. The automation update is going to be an absolute game changer. So let's dig into all of it. Aaron and Margie joined Joe to show off new features driven by sensors and button repeaters. This is essentially a logic system that can be attached to, well, pretty much anything in Astroneer that you can currently interact with. They went pretty in depth with the early prototypes of these items, and if you want to take that deep dive, you can go check out the VOD at the link in the description below. But the version that is shipping is very powerful. The button repeater allows you to remotely activate objects. You can place items on the slot on top, or grab a cable and connect it to an item. Each button repeater cable can have a dozen segments, and the target pin allows you to select the item you wish to connect to. You can also select the segment node and create a new branch off of the current connection. If you connect the button repeater to a platform or storage, everything connected will be activated. Aaron mentioned these things are going to be available fairly early in game, so we will be able to make use of the button repeater to help in a ton of new ways. There's also a power sensor, and it toggles items based on available power. In the first demo that he showed off, it was set to be able to turn on generators when a solar panel stopped creating power. And of course, they can also be set up to trigger an item when they gain power instead of losing it. Aaron then showed us the battery sensor that can react to a battery's charge state and trigger items based on what it senses. And there's also a storage sensor that can detect whether storage is empty or full, and it'll trigger an object based upon what it detects. To give us a quick idea how this could all work together, Aaron showed off several demos. The first was a setup using both the power and battery sensors that could turn off the auto alarm so it doesn't consume power when not in use, and that will turn on a generator when the batteries are drained. Margie took a moment to talk about how these new objects do not have a significant impact upon performance. The way they've been added into the game means that they do not have a great deal of weight upon the game itself, and there is a queue system that prevents your game from being overloaded by too many sensors trying to fire at the exact same time. It will appear instantaneous, though each sensor is actually queuing to help keep performance running just fine. Aaron went on to mention that the next update after automation is going to add even more complexity into the logic system, including NOT gates and even more robust logic gates. The update coming this month will focus more on helping us with general automation and power management, while the next update will feature items that bring a huge deal more control. And those controls means we're going to see some very cool creations from the Astroneer community. If you think that these sequence lights that they showed off are impressive, just stay tuned and watch clever Astroneers around the world come up with stuff that will absolutely blow your mind. Aaron also showed us a demo that used sensors to determine if the smelter was on or not, and the battery and power sensors to turn a generator on to charge an attached battery. This allowed the generator to run only when needed to charge the battery, thus conserving carbon. Personally, I tend to avoid generators because you have to constantly babysit them to ensure they don't run out of fuel or just turn them off or on based on need. With these sensors, that babysitting will be gone, and generators will become much simpler to use. Aaron also showed how this could integrate with the auto alarm to sense when a resource was ready to be moved to a storage canister and would turn the auto alarm off if nothing was available to move. And then we saw another demo that was able to turn on a small generator when a tractor's internal battery was drained. Since I kind of have a bad habit of forgetting to turn a tractor's generator on and wind up running out of power, this will be a welcome addition. The very nice thing about this is that the tractor itself didn't seem to miss a beat. As soon as the battery hit empty, the generator kicked in and the tractor just kept on going. Once the battery was full, the generator was turned off. While they didn't really discuss it, Joe walked up to a research chamber, canceled the research, and the research sample was not destroyed. He then took that research sample out of the research chamber, and the auto arm stocked it with a new one. Later on in the stream, he canceled research in 3 different research chambers with research objects, and again, none of them were destroyed. This is kind of a big deal. Joe did mention that they were playing in a release build, which means that the functionality that we saw in the stream should ship in this update. This means that you no longer run the risk of accidentally destroying your research samples if you're simply checking to see how much time is remaining. It also may mean that if you find a faster or a higher byte value researchable, you can stop the research chamber and just swap out the items inside. I don't know about you, but to me, this is a huge deal. And then Joe opened the research catalog to show off recipes and byte costs. The battery sensor will be 750 bytes and requires 1 zinc and 1 graphite. The button repeater is 300 bytes and requires 1 zinc. And the power sensor will be 500 bytes and it requires 1 zinc and 1 copper. And the storage sensor will require 750 bytes and requires 1 zinc and 1 quartz. This also meant that we were able to see the Reorganized catalog as well. Several things have been moved around and, based upon what we saw, moved into what I feel are more logical categories. They've also copied a handful of items from the backpack printer over to the small printer to enable us to mass print those items. And that was a fairly loaded sentence. First, it means that we can finally print some of these smaller objects on a printer that has continuous power, which means that we won't have to suffer through our backpack battery draining and then waiting for it to recharge before we can print again. But the second part was an indirect confirmation that the very act of printing items will be something that we can automate as well. So who's going to be the first to set up a mass production RTG factory? In fact, the only object that will not react to these new items is the EXO request platform. Aaron said that everything else should have some functionality added with all of these new logic items. Because of this, some items have had their on-off behavior modified in order to work with these items. Aaron mentioned that both the research chamber and chemistry lab have new automatic behaviors. As long as they have something that they can act upon, they will automatically perform their actions. This means that they will now function more like the smelter, which just keeps on smelting stuff until it's out of stuff to smelt. Applied to the chem lab, that means it should continue making composite resources as long as it has the stuff required for the recipe. And for the research chamber, it should just begin researching as soon as you place a researchable inside of it. These changes are some excellent quality of life improvements and on their own make this update a true game changer. And of course, they also mean that you won't have to stand in front of your chemistry lab for half an hour anymore, making hydrazine to power your jetpacks. If all of this talk of sensors and logic gates and such isn't really your wheelhouse, it can all be summed up easily like this. Any item that you can interact with through a current tooltip will soon be a candidate for automation. When asked if there was going to be a Tier 2 auto arm, Aaron confirmed that we will not be getting that with this update. He said they did not want to exhaust every single possible option out of the gate, which leaves the door open to the possibility that we'll see more automation even beyond the update after automation. And if all of that wasn't enough, Joe then brought Veronica into the stream to talk about the new cosmetic item store, EXO Outfitters. There's going to be a new in-game currency called qubits that you can purchase with real-world money to purchase cosmetic items in the store. As you can see from this shot, there's going to be all sorts of things that you can purchase. One of the nicer things I saw were the full suits, including the frame suit and the robot bundle, as well as the swift suit. By the way, speaking of the frame suit, check out this incredible suffocation animation and its included sounds.
I'm just going to say that.
I didn't know it had this robot sound for when it's suffocating.
Has full new sound. So the frame suit is great because it's since the Wanderer suit, it's our first suit that has, its own rig for animation. It has its own sounds. It really is just a new, all new suit.
And now, check out his new robot dance. Beyond new suits, there are new emotes, palettes, hats, masks, and visors that will be available for purchase, several of which were showed off during the stream. And there was one thing that stood out to me through it all: pricing. Now, let me say this up front. I am 100% in favor of Systemera establishing a revenue stream through selling cosmetics. They have committed to keeping updates that add to gameplay free for all players, but they do kind of have a business to run. Sure, the game is still selling, but you cannot run a game studio off of game sales alone. And since I want to see more and more features added to Astroneer, and I kind of really want to see what Systemera does after Astroneer, I support their choice to generate revenue through these cosmetic items. But when it comes to their actual pricing, I find the items a bit expensive. Honestly, I was expecting, and would be comfortable with, prices roughly half of what they're set at. Outside of the promotion at launch, the frame suit bundle would wind up costing 2,150 qubits, which means you would need to spend at least 25 real-world dollars to get it. Why 25? Because the smallest amount of qubits that you'll be able to buy will be in $5 increments, which should net you 500 cubics. So that means one suit sells for over half what the game itself costs. Yeah, that feels a bit steep to me. Now look, maybe I'm just out of touch with purchasing cosmetics. It's not something I do for video games. I do buy DLC, but I haven't ever really seen the appeal of spending cash on purely cosmetic items. So maybe my expectations on pricing are just a bit unrealistic. So I would love to hear from you. Are these prices reasonable, or do you think that they're too high? Like I said, for me personally, I don't see the value. I spend most of my time looking at my Astroneer's backpack since that's the default camera angle, so it's not like I'm even gonna see the new cosmetics all that often. I'd be okay with prices about half of what they're gonna be set at, but their current prices, well, I'm unemployed, but even if I was still working, I would be taking a hard pass and skipping the EXO Outfitters cosmetics. I think I'm just gonna stick to unlockables and be happy with that. When the update launches, you will not be able to gift items to other players. You'll purchase qubits through your platform-specific store, which means you can use your Steam wallet or other things for Xbox and PlayStation. But that does mean, regardless of platform, you could always send your friend funds through their specific platform, and then they could use those funds to buy qubits. It's a roundabout way to do gifting until System Era adds the ability to gift something to a player in game, if they ever do. There will be some seasonal items, along with some other stuff that will rotate in and out of EXO Outfitters. So what we see on launch day will not be the end of it. They did not discuss a timetable for this rotation, however. And of course, one of the important things that they pointed out is that there still will be unlockable cosmetic items in the game. So if you don't want to spend money on cosmetics, you're still going to have a steady flow of new cosmetics that you can unlock through good old-fashioned gameplay. But the ones that you unlock will not be in the store, and vice versa. Veronica also mentioned that they're looking for a way to bring back older unlockables so that newer players will have the option to earn them as well. They also mentioned that they're looking at ways to expand customization beyond just your Astroneer, though again, there was no discussion about a time frame on this. They kind of gave a nod to customization for base building items as well as vehicles. Some of those will be unlockable through time-limited events, and others will be available for purchase. Veronica also mentioned that an overhaul will be coming later this year to update the customization menus to make them a bit more manageable, but again, they didn't give a timetable for this. And the final bit of news of customization surrounds offline play. Currently, if you're offline, you don't get to use your unlocked items. With this update, all of the items you unlock or purchase should be available even if you lose your connection to the internet. There was, once again, discussion of a limited time event launching with the automation update, but we didn't get any details on what it'll be, how long it'll run, or anything beyond the fact that there's gonna be some new customizations that we can unlock. Joe did mention that he'll have another stream just before the release of the update where he talks about this limited time event. And Veronica hinted that this limited time event might even provide us, at long last, a use for Astroneer. Another small leak came out that they're currently looking into the way to give us the ability to track things that have been unlocked and collected. There wasn't a whole lot of detail on this, and again, no timetables given, so we'll just have to wait to see when or even if this finally materializes. And then there were just a few other little random tidbits. Steam Cloud saves should finally be happening in the update after automation, which will be a very solid addition and a quality of life improvement. Joe also told us to imagine that there were a merch store that was to launch in August that would let us get cool Astroneer merch. And he also said that we should imagine if they were working on that right now. Yeah, imagine. And that brings us to the final bit of news. I know I've talked about a lot in this video, and all of this came from just a single stream that clocked in at just under 3 hours. But toward the end of the stream, Veronica had this to say about the release date.
On Steam and Xbox, this update will be live on Wednesday, the 24th. So next week. On PlayStation, that is also our goal, but we have to pass certification on that platform, so we're aiming for that date. But if it has to come a little later, it'll just be, a couple of days after that. We'll keep y'all up to date.
That's right, June 24th. Wednesday is going to be huge. For me, not only will I have an Astroneer Academy video that day, but I'll also have a video out later that day or early on Thursday covering everything new in the update. And the week after that, Astroneer Academy will be covering automation. If you're not familiar with Astroneer Academy, it's a series of videos hosted here on Vainglorious Gaming that has been made by the Astroneer community for the Astroneer community. In it, we take you through the basics of surviving your first day, setting up a base, managing power, and even all the way through stepping through the rift and beyond. You should check it out. Oh, and by the way, apparently, I'm a classic.
One of the classics is here, and I think we might do it. Should we go raid Vainglorious? I think we should raid Vainglorious.
Thanks, Joe. Love you, man. And that wraps up my coverage for all the leaked information about the automation update. I cannot wait to get my hands on it and start implementing all of the new objects into my bases. My next Astroneer videos will be in just a few days, so be sure you're subscribed and notifications turned on so you don't miss a thing. And come hang out with us on the Vainglorious Discord server. We have a ton of Astroneer players ranging from people brand new to the game, all the way through seasoned veterans with over 1,000 hours of game time. And we would love to have you join our community. And with that, until next time, I'm Brandon, reminding you to stay vainglorious.